This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, February 17th, 2026. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Mass shooting reported in Rhode Island. Iranian forces continue naval drills as American forces begin mass movement into Middle East. Beginning with international events, in the Caribbean, American forces continue airstrikes on narco vessels, with 3 fast boats sunk overnight in the Southcom area of responsibility. 2 strikes were carried out in the Pacific and the 3rd in the Caribbean. A total of 11 enemy killed in action were reported as a result of the strikes. In the Middle East, this morning Iranian forces continued naval exercises in the Strait of Hormuz. These drills, dubbed the Smart Control of the Strait of Hormuz exercise by the IRGCN, has involved various show-of-force targeting drills involving various naval platforms. These exercises involved the brief closure of a section of the strait for a few hours today as live-fire drills were conducted throughout the day. In Europe, this morning, the mass movement of U.S. military aircraft was observed throughout the continent as American forces begin the surge of forces into the Middle East. Overnight, multiple flights of F-16s, F-22s, F-15s, and F-35s were all observed maneuvering toward the region, totaling several dozen aircraft. Command and control aircraft were observed staging as well, alongside several airborne early warning platforms. On the home front, in Rhode Island, yesterday afternoon a mass shooting was reported at a skating rink in Pawtucket as one assailant began firing in the stands at a high school hockey game. The shooter has been identified as Robert Dorgan, who was targeting his ex-wife and children during the attack. Concerning casualties, 2 fatalities have been reported, along with multiple wounded. Analysts comment. This appears to be a domestic incident in which a transgender individual murdered his family in the middle of a crowded venue. Based on the shooter's social media pages, this individual was very obviously mentally ill and had made threats openly for some time, including one post which directly threatened violence one day before the shooting. Analyst comments for this wire. So far, the mass mobilization of equipment to CENTCOM looks like the real McCoy once again. As of this afternoon, this is the largest migration of military aircraft into CENTCOM in many years, and differs from the last time the U.S. struck Iranian facilities, in that fighter aircraft are moving into theater much more so than the previous one-and-done single-sortie mission that was Operation Midnight Hammer. Of course, moving aircraft is comparatively cheap when it comes to the manipulation that these actions provide, which in this case is very obviously intended to pressure the Iranians into accepting whatever deal is put before them. This afternoon, Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi departed Geneva, with the past 2 weeks of talks more or less being a stalemate. As must always be noted, the forces that are being staged right now can always turn around and go home without a shot being fired. However, even taking this into account and adding in the wider geopolitical context, it's very likely that cratering Iranian facilities is on the menu once more. Probably the best form of warning for the Iranians is the minor detail that the main aircraft carrier in the region, the USS Abraham Lincoln, has not transited the Strait of Hormuz. This foreboding detail is likely due to long-standing doctrine. Any serious actions taken in Iran will require more maneuverability and range than the Gulf can provide. As a result, a common rule of thumb has been that the United States holding position in the Arabian Sea without transiting the strait is an indicator that the U.S. is serious. If the U.S. just wanted to posture, the Navy would have sailed through the strait just to flex on the Iranians' brown water navy, and since a carrier has been on station for weeks without doing so, this is something to take note of as the clock ticks down. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, February 17th, 2026.